The research outpost sat on the edge of a red moon, quiet and tense even on good days. Its walls were thick, its lights low, and its halls always smelled of metal and cold air. Many species worked there, but none ever forgot why the outpost existed. It was built under the protection of a predator dragon. The dragon's lair rested above the central dome, carved into the stone like a crown. The creature rarely moved, rarely spoke, and never needed to prove its power. Everyone felt it anyway. Its presence pressed down on the station like gravity. That was why the alarm tone made everyone freeze. It was not loud. It was not fast. It was a slow, deep hum that meant only one thing. The dragon had detected something. Technicians stopped typing. Scientists stepped away from glass tanks. Guards tightened their grips on weapons they all knew would be useless. No one spoke. The dragon's senses were older than any scanner. In the lower commons, a human sat alone at a narrow table. His name was Yarrick Morn. Yarrick had arrived only 2 cycles ago. He was not important. Not ranked high. Just a logistics worker who fixed panels, moved crates, and kept systems clean. He was quiet, polite, and easy to ignore. Right now he was opening a small metal food container. The smell spread quickly. It was sharp, warm, metallic, blood. High above, the dragon's head lifted. Its massive nostrils flared as the scent reached it through vents and stone. Blood meant injury. Injury meant weakness. Weakness triggered instinct older than thought. The dragon's eyes opened. Below in the control room, panic broke loose. "It's blood," an alien shouted. "Who is injured?" another cried. "Seal the lower decks." Red lights blinked on. Doors began to slide shut. Yarrick looked up, confused, as a blast door slammed halfway closed near the commons. He frowned. "Ah," he muttered, "that's new." The dragon moved. Not fast. Not loud. Just a shift of enormous weight. Stone groaned as claws touched ground. Heat rolled through the station systems. Guards backed away from corridors. Some ran. Some froze. The scent led the dragon downward. Straight to the commons. Yarrick finally noticed the tension. Aliens were staring at him. Some pointed. Some whispered. One dropped to the floor in fear. Yarrick looked down at his hands. The meat he had prepared was fresh. Packed from Earth. A simple protein meal. He had sliced it earlier with a small blade. A tiny cut on his finger had bled onto the food before he wrapped it. He hadn't even noticed. "Oh," he said quietly. The floor vibrated. A shadow filled the doorway. The dragon's head lowered into the commons, eyes glowing like molten gold. Its breath rolled out in waves, heavy and hot. Every alien present pressed flat against walls or hid behind furniture. Yarrick stood up slowly. His heart pounded, but he did not run. The dragon's gaze locked onto him. The smell was strongest there. Blood. Human. Come. That last part confused the ancient predator. Yarrick swallowed and raised one hand, palm open. Not as a threat. Not as surrender. Just a human habit. "Hey," he said softly. "Easy." The dragon's head tilted. No scream. No charge. Just silence. In the control room, someone whispered, "He's dead." Yarrick looked up at the dragon's eyes. They were not wild. They were focused. Curious. "It's not what you think," Yarrick said, voice steady though his legs shook. "I'm not hurt bad." The dragon leaned closer. The scent was real. The instinct pushed forward. "Relax," Yarrick added, almost embarrassed. "It's just my lunch." The words echoed through the commons. The dragon stopped. Its eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in confusion. "Lunch?" The predator's mind slowed. It watched the human closely. No fear scream. No prey signals. Heart fast, yes, but controlled. The human was not bleeding out. The blood scent was light. Mixed with food oils and salt. The dragon inhaled again. This was not a wounded creature. This was a fed one. Yarrick slowly lifted the container. He opened it fully, letting the dragon see. Raw meat, cut clean, packed carefully. No struggle. No kill. Just food. "I eat this," Yarrick said simply. "So do a lot of humans." The dragon's pupils shifted. Understanding did not come easily, but instinct eased. Below the fear, something else stirred. Discipline. The dragon pulled its head back slightly. The outpost held its breath. Yarrick let out a slow exhale he hadn't realized he was holding. That's my break time," he added weakly. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the dragon withdrew from the doorway, retreating into shadow. The pressure lifted. Alarms fell silent. The commons' lights returned to normal. Alien stared at Yarok like he had just spoken to a storm and survived. Yarok sat back down, hands shaking now that it was over. He closed his container halfway. "Man," he muttered. "I hate eating alone." Far above, the dragon settled back into its lair, eyes half closed, thoughts unsettled. The human had smelled like blood. And yet there had been no fear. Only calm. The dragon began to wonder what else it did not understand about humans. The commons were quiet now, but the tension had not left. Aliens peeked out from behind crates and tables, glancing at the human who had faced a predator dragon without flinching. Whispers filled the air, barely audible but heavy with disbelief. Yarok Morn sat back down at his table, slowly unwrapping a small bread roll. He had never expected a predator dragon to wander the lower decks, much less sniff out his lunch and stop short of striking him. To him it was just another morning. He was hungry and the work at the outpost was long. But to the others it was a near miracle. The dragon's massive form now loomed at the far edge of the room, still crouched near the doorway, golden eyes fixed on him. Its nostrils flared, but it made no move to attack. The creature's muscles rippled under scales that shimmered with metallic light. Every alien in the room held its breath, certain that any second now teeth and claws would strike. "Don't move," whispered a young cadet, peering from behind a support column. His voice trembled and he accidentally knocked a small container to the floor. The crash echoed and the dragon's head snapped toward the noise. Aliens froze completely, fearing the end. Yarok glanced at the cadet and offered a small, reassuring smile. "It's okay," he said softly, lifting his hands in a calming gesture. "It's not after us." The dragon's gaze flicked back to Yarok. Its instincts told it to attack, to assert dominance, to strike quickly and remove the unknown variable. Yet something about the human's calm demeanor, the steady movements and the absence of fear caused the dragon to pause. For a moment, it simply observed, massive body still, head lowered slightly in curiosity. A senior alien officer finally stepped forward, claws tightly gripping a control rod. He had trained under the dragon's presence for decades, but even he had never seen a human face a predator so calmly. "Step back," he ordered the cadets and technicians. "Do not approach." His own voice wavered slightly. Yarok continued eating slowly, carefully taking small bites from his roll. Each movement was deliberate, measured and peaceful. He did not raise his voice. He did not flinch. To him this was simply breakfast. He had been taught in his training that calmness could defuse many situations, though he had never thought he would test that lesson on a creature like this. The dragon tilted its head, nostrils twitching. Blood. That lingering scent was still there, mixed with the aroma of Yarok's simple meal. The predator had expected panic. It had expected humans to shriek, to run, to thrash. None of that happened. The human was steady. Controlled. The dragon's muscles relaxed slightly as it tried to understand. "Relax," Yarok said again, softly, almost like talking to a dog. "It's just my lunch." He held up the roll slightly so the dragon could see. Nothing else. Some of the aliens blinked in shock. He was speaking to the dragon. Calmly. Without weapons. Without fear. A young technician whispered, "Is he talking to it?" "Yes," another replied, barely audible. "And it's listening?" The dragon's eyes narrowed, not in aggression but in curiosity. It leaned closer, massive head moving slowly, cautiously, as if approaching a strange artifact. The scent of blood was still there, but it no longer triggered immediate instinct to attack. The human's calm presence overrode the predator's initial reaction. Yarok carefully set down the bread roll, opening the small container fully so the dragon could inspect it. The scent of food mingled with the faint blood trace on his fingers, and the dragon inhaled deeply. Its mind, honed over countless cycles of hunting and dominance, struggled to interpret the signals. The human was not a threat. He was not prey. He did not radiate fear or aggression. The room held its collective breath as the dragon stepped forward, each movement measured, deliberate. It sniffed near the container, watching Yarok's hands, watching his expression. The human remained motionless, calm, and inviting in his composure. One of the alien cadets whispered to a friend, "It's not attacking?" "Clearly not," the friend muttered, eyes wide. "He calmed it." Yarok smiled faintly and spoke again quietly. "See? Easy. Nothing to worry about." The dragon leaned back slightly as if considering the human's words. In some strange, instinctual way, the predator recognized the confidence and discipline in this creature called a human. It had never encountered anything like it. Creatures it expected to flee at the scent of danger now remained still. This one not only remained still, it continued to eat, calm and deliberate. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the dragon lowered its massive head. The tension in the room did not vanish, but it eased. Guards loosened their grips. Cadets peered around corners, watching, unsure whether to move. Yarrick took another small bite of bread, calmly chewing, letting the dragon take its time. Each bite reinforced the message: no threat, no panic, just human calmness in the face of instinctual aggression. Minutes passed. The predator dragon finally lifted its head slightly, nostrils still flaring but no longer in immediate hunt mode. It studied the human, its golden eyes searching for weakness, aggression, or fear. It found none. The alien slowly exhaled. Yarrick wiped his hands on a napkin and stood. "All done," he said simply, as though nothing unusual had happened. The dragon watched him for a few more heartbeats, then stepped back, retracting into the shadows of the common's entrance. Its curiosity remained, but the need to strike had vanished. Yarrick picked up his empty container and turned toward the hall. Around him, aliens moved again, cautiously, their fear replaced by awe. Some whispered, some bowed slightly, some simply stared. He smiled faintly. "Lunchtime, right?" he muttered. The predator dragon had learned something that day. Fear was not always the strongest signal. Calmness, discipline, and quiet confidence could alter instinct. And in that outpost, a human had shown it exactly how. The commons were quiet again, but the air still hummed with tension. The predator dragon lingered near the doorway, massive head lowered, golden eyes following every human movement. Its instincts told it to be wary, yet curiosity had replaced aggression. Aliens whispered among themselves, amazed and confused that a human had faced the creature without panic. Yarrick Morn stood calmly, hands at his sides, watching the dragon with equal curiosity. To him, this was not a life-or-death moment. It was a chance to observe one of the galaxy's oldest predators up close, a creature whose reputation made entire species tremble. He understood instinct and control even if he was only human. The dragon shifted its weight slightly, claws scraping against the smooth floor. Its scales glinted under the common's lights, shimmering like molten metal. The scent of blood still lingered faintly from Yarrick's small cut on his finger, but the human's calm, measured behavior had changed the dragon's response. It sniffed slowly, nostrils flaring, head lowering toward the table again. Yarrick took a small step forward, speaking softly. "You're curious, aren't you?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply spoke to the creature like one might speak to an animal on a farm back on Earth. "It's okay. I'm not dangerous." The dragon's eyes narrowed. It didn't understand words in the way humans did, but the tone carried meaning. Calm, control, confidence. The predator had sensed thousands of weak signals, hundreds of threats, and countless fear responses over its long life. This was something different, something it had not encountered. Around them, the aliens kept their distance, barely breathing. Even the guards, trained for years to face dangerous creatures, stood frozen. They had never seen a human confront a predator so massive, so lethal, without trembling. Yarrick reached slowly into his pack and pulled out a small piece of cooked meat. Not raw, not bloody, but fully prepared. He held it out on a small metal tray, keeping his hands steady. "I eat this," he said softly. "No fight. No chase. Just food." The dragon's head tilted slightly, watching the movement. Its eyes flicked between the human's hand and the food. For the first time in cycles, it did not see a threat. It saw something else: control, discipline, and understanding. Yarrick took another small bite from his own meal, chewing slowly, deliberately. He didn't look away from the dragon. He met its gaze, showing no fear, no hesitation. Every small gesture reinforced the message: calmness over instinct, patience over panic. Slowly, the dragon lowered its massive head closer, sniffing the food but not touching it. Its tongue flicked slightly, tasting the air. Every movement was careful, measured, deliberate. The predator was learning, observing, understanding. "You're strong," Yarrick said softly, nodding. "You could strike if you wanted. But you're not. You're watching, learning, understanding." The dragon's eyes blinked slowly, an almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't human, so it could not speak, but the message was clear. Instinct had been challenged, and the human had won, not through strength but through calm control. Around them, whispers spread. Aliens stared in awe. "How does he do that?" one asked. "He isn't even scared." The dragon's massive head lowered further, almost as if leaning closer to the human's presence for more information. Its muscles rippled under the scales, but there was no twitch for attack. Its nostrils flared again, sensing the faint blood from Jarek's cut, but the human's calmness negated the predator's natural impulse. Jarek set the tray on the table gently, making sure his movements were deliberate. "See? Easy," he said, smiling faintly. "No need to react. No need to attack. Everything's fine." For the first time, the dragon allowed itself to relax slightly. Its tail, massive and long, shifted on the floor but did not lash. Its claws, capable of tearing through metal, rested lightly on the ground. Its eyes still observed, but they no longer burned with instinctive urgency. The human's approach was simple, unassuming, and natural. He did not raise weapons. He did not shout. He did not run. He simply understood the predator's perspective and responded with calmness. Jarek took another small bite, then set the tray aside. "We can share space," he said softly. "You don't need to hunt me. I don't need to run. We can just exist." The dragon blinked slowly, golden eyes studying every movement. There was still wariness, still instinct beneath the surface, but the tension had shifted. It was no longer about immediate survival. It was about understanding. About learning why this human was different from all the others it had smelled, hunted, or observed. In the corner, a young cadet whispered, He's teaching it patience?" "Yes," another replied. "Calm. Respect. Understanding." The dragon shifted slightly, nudging its head toward the container. It sniffed again, more closely this time, and then backed off. Its massive presence still dominated the room, but now it carried a different weight. One of curiosity and recognition. Jarek exhaled quietly. He hadn't intended to teach anything. He hadn't come to prove himself. He had simply eaten his lunch. Yet, the lesson was clear to the predator. Strength alone did not command respect. Discipline, calm, and understanding could challenge instinct in ways that even a creature as ancient and powerful as this could not ignore. Minutes passed in silence. Slowly, the dragon retreated a few steps, still observing, still learning. Jarek returned to his seat, picking up the small container again. He ate slowly, deliberately, letting the predator adjust to his presence. For the first time, the ancient predator realized that humans were not just fragile, panic-driven creatures. They had something deeper. Something worth observing, perhaps even respecting. And for Jarek, it was just another lunch. Yet, in that quiet commons, understanding had begun to bridge the gap between predator and human, instinct and calm, fear and respect. The commons remained still, every alien holding their breath, but the predator dragon had shifted from tension to cautious interest. Jarek Morn sat at his table, picking up the small container of food again. He didn't move quickly, didn't make sudden gestures. Each action was deliberate, calm, and careful. The predator's golden eyes followed every bite, every movement, every breath. Jarek set a small piece of meat on the edge of the table and pushed it slightly toward the dragon. "Not too close, not in a threatening way. It's yours if you want," he said softly, almost like speaking to a pet. The dragon blinked slowly, nostrils flaring, head tilting in confusion. No human had ever offered him food without fear or hesitation before. The room was silent except for the soft scraping of the dragon's claws on the floor. The aliens watched, uncertain whether this act of peace would end in disaster or marvel. The dragon leaned closer, sniffing the piece of meat, then backed away slightly, still wary. Its instincts screamed caution, but something about the human's presence slowed its reflexes. Jarek picked up another piece and gently placed it closer. "It's safe," he said, voice calm. "I'm not afraid. You don't need to be either." The dragon's golden eyes studied him, searching for deception, searching for aggression. Finding none, it inched forward again, taking the small piece carefully between its sharp teeth. Its tail swished slightly but did not strike. Its head lowered a little, not in submission but in cautious acceptance. Jarek smiled faintly, taking another small bite of his own food. "See? Easy," he said quietly. "We can share this space. You don't need to attack. I don't need to run. We just exist." The predator blinked, and for the first time, those massive eyes held a hint of understanding. It did not yet fully trust the human, but it had learned something valuable. Calmness could counter instinct, patience could counter aggression. The scent of blood that had once triggered immediate reflexes now held no power over its judgment. Around them, the aliens were slowly relaxing, though still cautious. They whispered among themselves, trying to comprehend what they were witnessing. A human, a fragile creature by most standards, was engaging with one of the galaxy's most feared predators, and it was working. Slowly. Step by step. Jarek took another piece of meat and placed it on the table, letting it sit just within reach of the dragon. "It's not a challenge," he said softly. Just food. Nothing more. The dragon leaned closer again, sniffing, then taking the meat carefully. Its claws flexed, but it did not strike, did not lunge. Its breathing slowed and its posture softened. It was still massive. It was still powerful. But it was learning patience. It was learning restraint. It was learning something entirely new, that not all humans were weak and not all humans inspired fear. Yarrick continued eating slowly, deliberately, making no sudden movements. He occasionally glanced up, meeting the dragon's gaze without flinching. Each gesture reinforced trust. Each moment of calm taught the predator that this human was different. Minutes passed. Slowly, the dragon inched even closer, now sitting in a low crouch beside the table, its massive head near the human's hands. Yarrick pushed another piece of food toward it. This time, the dragon reached out with careful precision, taking it without hesitation. Good, Yarrick said softly, smiling. Easy. Nothing to worry about. The room seemed to exhale collectively. Even the oldest alien officers, veterans of countless predator encounters, leaned back, astonished at what they were witnessing. The predator dragon, feared across galaxies, had been calmed by the quiet confidence and patience of a single human. The predator leaned closer still, letting its head hover near the human's hands as if studying him. Yarrick did not flinch. He kept his movements smooth, gentle, measured. We can share this meal, he said. No fear. No fight. Just food, just space. The dragon sniffed, tasted, and slowly lowered its head slightly, resting near the human's arm without touching aggressively. Its body was tense, alert, but not hostile. It had learned that the human posed no immediate threat and that calmness was stronger than reflex. Yarrick picked up another small piece and offered it. The predator took it without hesitation, leaning back to chew slowly. Step by step, meal by meal, they were building an understanding neither species had fully anticipated. A young cadet whispered to another, "It's sharing food with him." "Yes," the friend replied. "He's teaching it patience, trust." Yarrick continued eating, speaking quietly when necessary, maintaining eye contact with the dragon. Nothing to fear. Nothing to chase. We exist together. The predator dragon blinked slowly, golden eyes softening as it adjusted to this new dynamic. Instinct and experience told it to distrust. But observation, patience, and the calm demeanor of the human taught it otherwise. Hours could have passed. Minutes could have passed. Time no longer mattered. What mattered was the shared meal, the shared space, and the quiet understanding growing between predator and human. By the time the meal was finished, the predator had shifted completely. No longer tense, no longer driven solely by instinct, it had learned the first lesson. Calmness could overpower reflex, understanding could override fear. Yarrick set down his tray, smiling faintly. "All done," he said simply. "Nothing more." The dragon's massive head lifted slightly, golden eyes still fixed on the human. It had not fully trusted yet, but it had learned something invaluable. In that quiet, calm space, predator and human had discovered a new truth. Strength alone did not command respect. Understanding, patience, and calmness could build a bond even across instinct and species. And for Yarrick, it had been nothing more than sharing a simple meal. The alien onlookers whispered in awe. The predator dragon had been tamed, not by force, not by fear, but by the quiet, steady presence of a human who knew one simple truth. Calm could conquer chaos and trust could be earned, even with the deadliest predator in the galaxy. The commons was quiet now, but the weight of what had just happened hung in the air. Yarrick Morn stood slowly, brushing crumbs from his hands. The predator dragon, once a creature that could have destroyed everyone in the room without thought, now sat calmly a few feet away. Its massive head tilted slightly, eyes fixed on the human as if trying to read what it had just learned. Every instinct in the dragon screamed caution. Every nerve in its body remembered danger. Yet something deeper had shifted. Calmness had spoken louder than reflex, patience had silenced fear, and understanding had overridden aggression. It was a lesson the dragon would not forget. Yarrick took a careful step closer, his movements deliberate and slow. "See? Nothing to worry about," he said softly. "No threats. Just us." The dragon lowered its gaze slightly, almost acknowledging the truth of his words. The alien spectators, who had been holding their breath since the encounter began to murmur. Some leaned forward, still tense, still unsure if the calm would last. Others shook their heads in disbelief. None had seen a human confront a predator like this, and fewer had seen it end with respect rather than blood. Yarrick crouched slightly, still keeping his voice low, soft, and steady. "I know you're powerful," he said, But power doesn't have to be frightening. You can choose what to do. You can choose calm. The dragon's nostrils flared, catching the faint scent of the human again. Its eyes narrowed as if measuring intent, but there was no hostility. It shifted its massive body slightly, testing boundaries but not striking. Step by step, breath by breath, it was learning the lesson. Not all strength required dominance, not all fear required submission. Yarrick extended his hand slowly, palm up, a universal gesture of peace. I respect you, he said simply. I know what you are, what you can do. I'm not afraid. We can coexist. The dragon blinked slowly, considering. Its massive head lowered almost imperceptibly, closer to the human hand but stopping short of contact. No human had ever dared approach like this. No human had ever shown such calm, such patience, such understanding. Its instincts still whispered warnings, but something in its ancient mind acknowledged a new truth. This human was different. Around the commons the aliens whispered nervously. Some shook their heads in awe. He's not just surviving, one said. He's teaching it. Yes, another whispered. Calm. Understanding. Respect. Yarrick stayed low, keeping eye contact. You don't need to fight me. I don't need to run. You can choose calm. You can choose respect. Instinct is strong but understanding is stronger. The dragon's tail flicked lightly on the floor, no longer tense but alert. Its head remained tilted, golden eyes locked on the human. A slow, almost imperceptible nod passed between predator and human. Neither needed to speak words. Both understood that respect had been established, not through fear, not through force, but through patience, observation, and calm courage. Yarrick straightened slightly, careful not to startle the massive creature. He took a step back, giving the dragon space, signaling that no further challenge would come. All done, he said softly. No need for more. The dragon exhaled slowly, a low rumble vibrating through its chest. It had learned something valuable. Instincts were powerful, but they could be tempered. Aggression was strong, but calm was stronger. Fear was natural, but respect was earned. The aliens around them were still in shock. Some had fought creatures far less intelligent, far less dangerous, and yet none had faced them with such quiet control. Yarrick had not wielded weapons. He had not shouted commands. He had simply been human, calm, confident, observant, and patient. The dragon lowered its head slightly closer, sniffing at the human's boots, then raised it again, eyes locking with his. In that gaze was recognition. In that posture was acceptance. It had learned that the human did not pose a threat, that the human could be trusted, and that the predator's own strength could coexist with calm. Yarrick took a deep breath and smiled faintly. We're done here, he said. No fights. No panic. Just respect. Slowly, he began to move toward the exit of the commons, leaving space for the dragon to observe and adjust. The predator did not follow aggressively. It remained seated, eyes tracking him but not moving to attack. Step by step, distance grew but so did understanding. As Yarrick reached the door, the dragon exhaled once more, a soft, low rumble that echoed through the hall. It was a sound of acknowledgement, not aggression. Respect had been earned, not through dominance but through calm, steady behavior. The aliens outside the commons had already begun whispering, spreading the tale. A human had faced one of the galaxy's oldest, most feared predators and had not only survived but had commanded respect. Not through weapons, not through fear, but through quiet courage and patience. Yarrick stepped out into the corridor, shoulders relaxed, breathing steady. To him it had been just another encounter. Just another chance to eat lunch and observe. But the galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. The moment a human had reminded a predator that instinct alone did not rule all interactions. The predator dragon remained behind, massive head tilted, eyes golden and alert. It had learned a new lesson, one that would ripple through its instincts for cycles to come. Humans could inspire respect, not through fear but through understanding. And in that calm moment, predator and human shared a truth that transcended language, species and instinct. Respect, once earned, could surpass fear. Yarrick turned a final glance, smiled faintly and whispered, "See? Easy." The dragon blinked slowly, a rumble vibrating in its chest. It had understood. And for the first time instinct bowed to respect.